Hello and welcome to the Bucket Bros. It is the playoffs. We made it a full season. I think we started this about 9 months ago, and here we are. It is the playoffs. This is what we were waiting for when we first started all of this. Welcome in. I'm Ronnie. That's Bobby. One day I'll get this.
Hey,
I
everybody.
hope everybody's had a great weekend. How was yours, Bobby? How was your weekend of basketball?
It was good. A lot of time spent with family, which meant, I had to escape, find excuses along the way to go catch clips of games. So that did make it kind of tough. I'll make sure to talk a little bit more about the games that I was able to tune into a little bit more versus the ones that, let's say, I just had to learn about secondhand.
That's okay. I feel like there's at least a couple of them, but I think at least the ones I didn't pay attention to didn't seem to be big storylines, minus the record-breaking amount of victory. So, um, but we can kind of kick it off there if you want. At least for me, I think the whether it's not so surprise, but kind of a surprise just because of how good we've talked about the Grizzlies and the fact that the Thunder had the fifth largest victory in NBA playoff history. Um, had a 17-0 advantage in fast break points, which is just nuts. But they ended with a 131-80 win over the Grizzlies, a 51 point margin. Yeah, that was just kind of incredible by them. So, uh, did you catch any of that? That was one I didn't get much of. It's a number one seed. My cat has a lot to say about it. So I'm just curious, what were your thoughts or anything, whether it's you caught a recap or did you watch it live? How did you kind of take in that game?
I had to take in that game after the fact. Unfortunately, I am sad I missed it. Well, I should say I'm sad I missed about the first 12 minutes of it, which it sounds like that's about all it took for the game to be decided. OKC won the first three quarters by a wide margin. It sounds like they just essentially dominated this game all the way through. Didn't even give Memphis a chance. Who I will add they were coming off of a home game that was a day and a half before this one, before having to travel to OKC for the first playoff game. I don't think that makes up for 51 points. Um, I do think that OKC, not surprisingly, has a lot of answers for what Memphis has to throw at them. In particular, I would like to see Jaren Jackson Jr. have a much stronger game than 4 points on 13 field goal attempts. Um, and certainly would like to see the starters be able to stay in the game for at least all of the first three quarters, perhaps. But yeah, I mean, OKC was able to force 22 turnovers on this one. It felt like the starters were able to just sort of coast for the first portion. I though so far I'm not feeling bad about my OKC and four prediction here. I think that there is a good chance that I mean, in general, if anybody was worried about OKC, who's just like not, not the flashiest logo. When we think of big market teams and sports, when you think of the NBA in general, the first thing that tends to pop into your mind is an OKC. If you had any doubts about how dominant this team was going to be, you throw a 48 win Memphis Grizzlies teams at them, and it's not even close. Certainly, there's a few more games of basketball to be played, so yeah, we can see this matchup tighten up a little bit, perhaps, but just pure dominance all the way down from OKC. Not much to, like you said, not much to talk about there.
Yeah, I would say offense or defense. It's like I'm looking at the box score, and nobody on Memphis scored more than 17 points. John Morant and then Marvin Bagley Jr., the third, first
Not
scored
not
17.
not to be confused with Marvin Bagley Jr. or Senior. Marvin Bagley the third
Yeah,
also was their leading scorer for that matchup. Well,
yeah,
it ended up being a good trade after all. Maybe maybe
yeah.
maybe maybe Marvin Bagley
They
found
needed
his
him. They
final
needed him
home
for that
here.
one. There you go. So yeah, I would expect there to at least be a better showing. I think, like you said, and it 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 doesn't excuse the 51 points, but I definitely think that there's something to be put into to play for the energy expelled in the playing game. You really only, like you said, had a day or so of rest, and the other teams had a full week. Um, so yeah, I think there was definitely some of that to play. Excuse me, the worst audio thing to do is cough.
Not to mention the late
Um,
coaching change.
yeah, that doesn't help as well either. But I definitely would have to say I would expect a much closer game, I would hope, in games 2 and 3. So we'll see how this one goes. Like you said, not too much else to kind of dig in. This is one of the best teams that we've seen in a few years. Um, kind of just dismantle another
I,
team. So
I
yeah.
have to say, I just have to say that Alex Caruso shot the ball 0 times. In 12 minutes played, he was plus 30 in the box score.
Wow. It's incredible. I knew
Not
where you were going with that. As soon as you, I was like, let me look to the bottom. And I'm like, whoa,
Not
that's a big
a
number.
chance. I mean, legitimately, I expect OKC to have a lot of answers for Ja Morant. I don't think that this is going to be his series. They have a lot of like smaller wing players who are not as nobody is as athletic as Ja Morant, but a lot bigger and can really clog up the lane for him. I don't necessarily think he's going to dial in as a 3-point shooter all of a sudden. So I mentioned his name first. Jaren Jackson Jr. I think has to have a big series in order for this one to be competitive. I certainly plan on tuning in on their next matchup. Um, which is that one coming on? Are we seeing them today? No, no, no. They're
That one
playing tomorrow.
tomorrow.
They're playing tomorrow. So yeah, anything I wasn't able to dedicate time to as much this weekend is certainly going to get zoomed in on over the next couple days. But yeah, that's what I'll be looking for.
No, I think you bring up a key point, which is going to kind of foreshadow a lot of the things that are going to kind of that we're going to discuss is these players that if these teams can schematically kind of either force one player or they just manage to, it's like, who else is going to score? It's kind of like, if you're going to let Ja Morant beat us, let him beat us, and nobody else is going to. And it's going to kind of come up across, and that's why we've always talked about possessions being so important. And it's one of those things with a lot of these younger teams. I'm seeing a lot of just kind of throwaways, like you're thinking you're playing gym ball when it's like you're in the playoffs and every one of these possessions is important. So I think I'm sure today for and yesterday for a lot of these teams there was a lot of film breakdown as far as because if I'm seeing these things, I can't imagine what their coaches are seeing. So it's to me, it's one of those the nuts and bolts of basketball kind of comes out, and all of this is how is uh, just schemes like who's going to step up, who's going to make big shots, and I think that's obviously what's going to carry a lot of these teams. It's going to be their 3, 4, and 5 guys versus just their 1 and 2s. So, and I think that's what makes a great team, and that's what's going to hopefully show in these playoffs.
Well, who's nuts and whose bolts do you want to talk about next?
I don't know. Let's see. I got the. I think let's kind of jump out east. I think we kind of covered one number one seed. Let's cover the other number one seed and head up to Cleveland. Um, Similar, they kind of had a pretty dominant showing for themselves against the Heat, and they look like a legit team. And I think that's another one of the things too that kind of takes away. It's hard to kind of break them down just because it's like they're playing so well. They're playing these teams that aren't really giving them too much of a threat. It's curious, like I'm waiting for the next round just to kind of see, like, all right, who's going to be tested and how are they going to go? Um, but yeah, the Cavs. Uh, as I get to my stuff, I apologize if I'm lagging behind as my internet lags behind. Um, Cavaliers win by 21 points, 121-100 over the Heat. Take a 1-0 lead. And yeah, so for the Cavs, one of the things I kept seeing was I think Darius Garland had a good game. He had 27 points. Spider Mitchell had 30. And then Ty Jerome with 28 as well. So again, they're one of those, just like I said before, they don't have to have like a number one like we've mentioned with a lot of some of these teams because they can get the offensive distribution from a lot of different players. So I think that's what makes them so dangerous because yeah, I'm looking at the our magic button guy in the first playoff game only had 9 points. So Evan Mobley. So there's a lot of other guys that were involved and got this team this big win. So, but uh, I do have to say I'm kind of surprised Max Strus didn't have a little bit bigger game against his former team, kicking off in the playoffs. So, but yeah, not too much to say. Looks like Bam and Wiggins had a decent game for the Heat, and Tyler Hero did as well. But outside of that, actually, there's another D Mitchell there that I'm not sure who's on the Heat bench. I got those.
We'll talk about Davion Mitchell.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, this is a good time for me to admit that this is the one playing spot that I got wrong. The
Oh yeah,
I
both of
I
us got wrong.
I thought the Bulls were gonna climb out of this one, and it turns out I was right about the Hawks losing both games, but I was
Yeah,
wrong who they were gonna lose to.
yeah,
And having actually watched the Heat Bulls game, I felt embarrassed that I even picked the Bulls, just because I mean, while they were hot, so were the Heat going down the stretch at the end of the season after having previously lost 10 in a row or something like that. They saw they were able to gain some momentum, and yeah, the Bulls had essentially no answer for them. And the Heat just kind of looked like a team that had been in the playoffs before. It's important to remember, I guess, that same head coach, and aside from Jimmy Butler, they do have a lot of that same core. Especially between Bam, Tyler Hero. I think Alec Burks has been with them. Certainly Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith. I mean, I'm naming a lot of guys who have been with this squad through their most recent finals run. And but that said, once you go up against a number one seed, things do change. One of the outcomes of the play-in is you're going to see a squad that has had 27 less wins, go up against the one seed, which it goes to show, right? It goes to show. I mean, right off the bat, you mentioned something that I think led to this not easy, but a coast of a win for the Cavaliers, and that's their backcourt. Both their starters, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, and their bench player, their number one bench player, Ty Jerome, just absolutely tore up the Heat. They had no answer for what anybody was doing in the backcourt. I mean, those three combined, if I'm doing quick math correctly, 85 points between the three of those. And it's, I mean, and it was a lot of fun to watch too. I mean, Donovan Mitchell was getting to the rim just seemingly at will, finishing without an issue. He went for those 30 points on 19 field goal attempts. He went 11, I'm sorry, 9 of 11 from 2. I'm sorry, 9 of 10 from 2. So just kind of getting to the rim whenever he wanted to. He had prior to the fourth quarter, he had missed all his 3-point attempts, but he had a couple daggers down the stretch there. And then, I mean, even when he wasn't in the game, I already mentioned Ty Jerome was just absolutely tearing it up. He had kind of gotten quiet down the stretch of the regular season there, but the Ty Jerome that we came to know and love of who is this guy? I don't remember him playing like that when he was on Golden State. We were seeing that version of him again, just kind of able to beat his defender, pin him, penetrate the lane, and make a decision from the mid range. And a couple times it was these frisky little floaters just made their way in. I mean, it got to the point where he was feeling so confident in himself that he just started launching from 30 and watching them go in. It was a lot of fun to watch. The Yeah, and on the Heat side, the only offensive player, I shouldn't say the only, because Bam actually had some really good moments, but yeah, I mean, the only surprise, I guess, offensive player would be Davion Mitchell, who, I mean, he is known to be an offensive first, smaller guard, but he was also able to just, at 6 feet nothing, he was able to burn past uh, Cavaliers players seemingly at will. I don't know, I don't know if I'm going to trust his jumper down the stretch here, but yeah, he I mean, he made as much of an impact as he could. Had probably one of his better games of his career, and it still just wasn't enough. So I'm also not feeling bad about that pick for Cavs and four. I just don't think as like hard nosed and tough of a fighting, nail scratching, biting team as this Miami squad is, and as well coached as they are. I do not see them having the answer for the Cavs here.
Yeah, it looks like the Cavs just outscored the Heat. Was this 34-21 in the fourth? Just kind of showed why they're a dominant team. And yeah, to me, this, like you said, it's we both got it wrong. I picked the Bulls as well. So it's, but yeah, we're not seeing the Hawks. So this, I feel like, yeah, in four feels right, even though there's going to be a fight put up. The Heat are always going to put up a fight. Granted, they
Yeah,
don't
I
have
wouldn't be
a
surprised if they
Udonis
do steal
Haslam to
one.
throw in.
This would be a good time to mention one thing I did notice, and this will be something to watch for, is I was just talking up Ty Jerome. The only other bench player to score was Sam Merrill, who hit two 3-pointers for a total of 6 points. That was the entirety, the 28 that they got from Ty and the six that they got from Sam Merrill was the only bench scoring. Not a single point from Dean Wade, who only played 7 minutes. Not a single point from DeAndre Hunter, who shot the ball 4 times. I think, and certainly nothing from Isaac Okoro, who apparently looked very, very sloppy out there, especially shooting threes, which is the only thing he did shoot. Um, Missed all 4 attempts. So that will be interesting to watch moving forward. That's the backup unit was a little bit of concern for the Cavs. Not that they don't function well in a regular season setting, but how are they going to look in the playoffs? So far, we got one guy to pop. Let's see what they got moving forward.
Yeah. Well, let's stay in the East and let's go to the number two seed
I
and
like that.
one
I
of the.
like that we're kind of going down the seating. That's good. I like this.
So yeah, let's chat about the Celtics and the Magic. And this was one game I watched the entirety of live. It was a nice, relaxing. I didn't get to sit and watch the Masters last weekend on the couch, but I did get to sit and watch the Celtics Magic on the couch, which it was definitely a fun game to watch. And it's funny because the games that I'm watching live, I'm not taking notes on, whereas like all the ones that I'm watching the recaps, I am. One, I think, like the biggest takeaways without even looking at the stats was just how cold Orlando was shooting. And whereas you have, and they made a point to say it where uh, the Magic were the worst shooting team, 3-point shooting team in the playoffs, and the Celtics were the best 3-point shooting team in the playoffs. And it showed. And so it just was the Celtics end up winning 103 to 86, and so it's like we've seen a couple of these teams in the 80s here, which is unusual when I feel like we've seen a lot of this season with a lot of big scoring, and so now it's the playoffs, and all of a sudden you're getting this defensive clamp down on some of these teams, and they're kind of again like I was mentioning, where it was only Powell and Franz Wagner had scored. I think the next highest score without even looking at the stats was at least into the fourth was Jonathan Isaac with like 7 points. And so like it was just one of those things where they had no other scoring, where it was the Celtics just forced these two to score, and if they were going to pitch it, we're going to let everybody else like try, or like it just we're going to shut them down. And so it was a more or less another masterclass by the Celtics, proving that they're the defending champs. And this is a team. This is, I think, was my Eastern Conference Finals matchup. So it's a little disappointing to see just that the Magic aren't where I thought they were with a fairly full squad. Obviously, I know they don't have Jalen Suggs, so it's it's a little heartbreaking, especially since it's the team I kind of was championing for a while. But obviously, this is Derek White had a tremendous game. I think it was him and Pritchard were the two highest scorers for the Celtics again. So it's just the fact that they're getting points from everywhere in the playoffs, not from, I would almost say, their big three of Holiday, Brown, and Tatum, that your next two are your higher scores. So uh, it's a great way for them to start the playoffs and get the game one victory and kind of proceed the roll. I don't remember what you had this one at, but the way that this one looked, I might have to trim a game off. If I thought it was six, it might need to be five. So I don't know what your thoughts were.
I picked a lot more sweeps this year than I normally would, and so
Mm,
I mean, right off the bat, again, not feeling uncomfortable about my Celtics in four on this one. And I mean, you basically nailed it. The Celtics have shot a historic amount, perhaps made a historic amount of 3-pointers this regular season. The Magic have been historically a poor 3-point shooting team this year, and I know a lot of that has to do with injuries. Jalen Suggs is not somebody I'd consider a sharp shooter, but missing him obviously, just not just as a 3-point shooter, but just as a team dynamics perspective. They
yeah.
really are missing him. I mean, you said it. The only person who was able to take advantage of his matchups was Paulo Banchero. I mean, 36 points on 27 field goal attempts is pretty good. But the combined 59 points between him and Wagner that made up 59 of the 86 from the Magic. With, again, as you said it, Isaac only having 7 points as the next highest scorer from there. I feel like we're just going to be seeing a lot of this. I mean, credit to Orlando defense. This was a very close first half
Hmm.
that that just in a game that just opened up wide in the third quarter for the Celtics. So I don't know if the Magic can can throw together enough good halves like that. Ideally, two in the same game. Preferably something a little bit more magic, if you will, in the second half. Because yeah, they're going to need all the help they can get. Brilliant shooting from Derek White. It's 7 3-pointers, and they looked nice too. They weren't all easy shots. The Magic, all else aside, they are a big, tough, athletic, young team. So, not super fun to go up against. That's probably what led to a lot of the hiccups early on from the Celtics. They're probably in championship mindset already, and first they got to get beat up by these young playing team. So, Tatum did get knocked out of the air in the fourth quarter and went down with a wrist injury. It looks like the X-rays looked okay. Hopefully, they're just calling it a strain or a sprain. I don't know actually what his timeline is going to be if they expect to see him back again in the next game. I wouldn't be surprised if they sit him for a game just to give him a little extra rest. Heck, if they win, I wouldn't be surprised if they sit him for a couple of games. He had a fairly inefficient game. Brown seems to be able to Jalen Brown seems to be able to overtake these bigger defenders a little bit easier, especially in these like tight playoff type settings, than Jason Tatum does, who seems to want to rely on his jumper a little bit more, which can be a bit of a roller coaster. But yeah, otherwise, just the amount of grind that the Celtics had to put into this one was short lived before they created enough separation to just bring it home. So again, gonna be tuning into their next matchup here pretty soon, with a slightly bigger lens. But yeah, I'm not feeling uncomfortable yet about my pick.
Yeah, no, the Tatum injury is one to keep an eye on. There's a viral clip going around that like all the sports and basketball people are showing with Joe Mazzulla, like stopping the trainer from going out to see him and like drinking some water and then like yelling out to him, like, get up, like thinking that he's faking it and kind of pulling a LeBron and kind of milking it a little bit. So keep an eye out for that one on social media if you haven't seen it yet. So, no, like you said, I think it's if they were smart, like, why risk it? Like, they saw what they could do. I think, like you said, he only scored 16 or 17 points. Obviously, he's the key to the Celtics winning the championship. I don't know if he's going to need to be the key to winning game two. Like, they want to give him a rest and kind of give him a few days off. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that one as far as his injury status goes. Yeah, again, Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench with 19. Like you said, Derek White with 30, Tatum had 17, Jalen Brown with 16, and then Paolo Banchero had 36 points, and Franz Wagner with 23. I managed to get through. Uh, so yeah, the Celtics up 1-0. So that means we're going over to the West in the number 2 seeded Houston Rockets and their matchup with the Golden State Warriors, which was a grind fest. This felt like we were watching Memphis probably, was that about 10, 12 years ago, back when they had all of their pieces in play of uh, Zach Randolph and Tony Allen and just the grittiness of that team. It's kind of how that game felt. Like it felt like one of these two teams is going to grind it out. I think I made a note. Where'd it go? The Rockets had under 40 points with 8:32 left in the third quarter. And under 30 or under 40, I was like, what in the world is going, like, Thibodeau was on the sideline of this game? Like, is there, like, what is going on? And why are they came back and they actually got on a little bit of a run and ended up kind of making it close in the fourth quarter. And and again, I kind of pose this to you as I ask you kind of your thoughts on the game. Uh, is there any other trio of gritty vets that you would want in one of those kind of grind out slugfests than Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph? Like that trio of them kind of controlling, making smart decisions. And granted, uh, there was a couple shaky decisions by a few of them towards the end, but it was just, it kind of made me think like that trio of veteran like mindset between the three of them, it's hard to kind of match, and it's going to kind of, we're going to see it come into play as it did where the Warriors ended up upsetting the Rockets and managed to pull off this victory. So yeah, what are your kind of thoughts on this? The Warriors win 95-85. And yeah, it was just kind of one of those ugly games kind of throughout.
Yeah, well, if if you could ever label a team like the Warriors as having championship DNA just based on a game one of a round one series, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
They came out against the Rockets, and I could tell right away that they were looking really shook up by the Rockets' physicality. I hate that word, but their physical nature, their size, their speed, their defensive intensity. The Warriors for a second looking like they were going to be the ones to fall pretty hard in the first half, and before the end of the first quarter, they already had the lead. Um, yeah, it's That's a good question that you asked about that trio. I'd have to like sit down and look at a list to give you like a proper answer. But this game is interesting on so many levels. I actually can't remember our predictions going in. I think I picked Rockets in 7, and I still
I think I
don't hate
picked
that prediction.
I think I picked the Warriors in 7.
I think so. I think so. And things that really stood out to me about that game. Um, One, I don't expect the Rockets, who are not known to be a good 3-point shooting team. This is certainly one of their weaknesses. I don't expect them to shoot 20% for the entire series.
Yeah.
And if you watch the game, there was a lot of possessions where they actually were penetrating the lane well against the Warriors because they have the young crafty personnel to do it. But then they would get in the lane, and because of their absence of spacing in particular, it would be so clogged that yes, like these like go for any ball defensive veterans were swiping it away or modifying the shot or killing a pass in its tracks around the hoop before anything could happen. So there was actually a lot of I don't actually have the numbers around the rim right now, um but the Rockets shot a low percentage around the rim as well, in the paint rather. Yeah, nothing seemed to be working for them. They even won the free throw game and went 11 for 20 from the free throw line. So a lot of young team jitters playing out, but not to put down the execution of the Warriors, who Did not falter. Did not falter in that first quarter. Got themselves a 20-point lead fairly early on. I think before the end of the first half. That was gobbled up by the Rockets. I think they got to within three by the third. Or I'm sorry, by the fourth, and then the Warriors just kind of took
Warrior.
control of the game after that. I think one thing that they did particularly well was getting guys into foul trouble. They were able to get. He only ended up having two fouls on the game, but they were able to get two like real. They were able to get the refs to call two really ticky tack fouls on Apparent Shingun in the first quarter that forced him to sit. And I think he was about the only player on the Rocket squad that the Warriors just didn't have an answer for. I mean, I think there's a version where we're going to see more of that, and then eventually we're going to see the younger guys just actually make more of their shots around the rim. And as somebody who loves watching this Warriors team just like still grind out these crazy playoff wins and do it in the same fashion over and over again, including a number of shots by staff that make you like unexpectedly laugh out loud just because you can't believe what you just saw, even though you've seen him do it already. Uh, yeah, I mean, call it shooting luck, but those were big moments and they do matter, and I think there's going to be more of them. But no, I think there's a version of this Rockets team that plays a little bit more efficiently, doesn't look as much like a '90s basketball game as Kerr called it, and we end up seeing a very competitive matchup. I'm excited for this series all around. I cannot wait for this next game, which is going to be also on Wednesday. So can't wait for that one.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it. your your next leading scorers can't be Dylan Brooks and Jabari Smith Jr. Because they both had 11, and then it was Fred VanVleet with 10. So Jalen Green only had 7. I think that obviously this is a team of, it's like the Cavs. They should have shown up, like we said. And it's funny now. It's probably the other way around. I feel like I called the no. I think I said it right. Where the Rockets were like the Cavs light, or maybe it was the other way around. But it's, are these role players? Are these other guys going to step up? Obviously, it's a younger team. So this was kind of their first test and taste of playoff basketball. So we'll see how they come out in game 2. But yeah, you kind of hope that we see the the 50, was a 51, 52 win team that they were, and can kind of put up a little bit bigger fight, minus kind of that comeback in the fourth. But yeah, this
Well, we
it,
didn't even mention playoff Jimmy has arrived. We saw it a little bit in the
yes,
play-in
yes.
game, and then we're seeing it already in game one. I kind of I was calling for it at towards the end of the regular season. I can't remember which game we were watching where it was a really disappointing outing, and I said, "Where was Jimmy Butler's jumper?" Well, I mean, he's not a sniper by any means, but he was hitting this turnaround. I mean, essentially, he was getting into the lane, was threatening to draw a foul or get to the rim, didn't like it, and then was just scooting around because he's really good on the pivot foot and getting this turnaround to fall. And like that's what we need to see from him. That's the Jimmy Butler that I know that can score on more than one level. Um, yeah, yeah. I'll stop talking about this game because there's a lot that needs to play out yet. But really exciting stuff.
No, I think, like you said, this is going to be one of the. It's one of the ones that we, I think, had a differing opinion on. So, yeah, this is going to be an exciting one. And granted, we both had it going 7. So let's hope that this is an exciting series, as we are thinking that it probably will be. So yeah, I will let you choose. Do you want to go east west on the 3 seeds? I will let you decide. Do you want to talk about the Knicks, or do you want to talk about the Lakers?
Hmm. Why don't we just get that Knicks Pistons game out of the way? We'll get that Knicks Pistons game out of the way real quick.
Yeah. So, as all of my stuff keeps dying on me, let's take a look at that Knicks game from Saturday.
Yeah. So I will admit this is one that this is a series that I believe their next game is tonight, and I will certainly be able to get a better assessment of what this matchup looks like. when I get to watch a full game. So a lot of my interpretation is going to be secondhand here. I do know that this that this Knicks win required I mean, it was a close game before then, but it required a 21 nothing run in the fourth quarter to really open things up and secure their win down the stretch. Um, Cade Cunningham had a fairly efficient game. I mean, he had a double double. He was 21 and 12. But yeah, it it's. I mean, how many heroic games from Tobias Harris are you gonna get in a playoff series? You're glad you have him. You're glad you have him when it works. But yeah, not the most reliable thing. Um, the Pistons, they shot the hell out of the three ball. I mean, they went 15 for 32.
We got
So
Malik Beasley, so
they actually had some things going their way, and it's, are they going to be able to replicate that night and night when you got the likes of Jalen Brunson, a lot of pressure on the defense over and over again. Um, that's about my limited evaluation of
this
this game thus far. I will hope to. I am
that
really
is
interested in the series. I'm pretty sure I picked the Knicks in six, so I do expect things to grind out a little bit more. But yeah, so far, fairly fairly convincing win from the Knicks.
yep. I think this is one that I kind of put in some extra effort with watching the game film back. Um, OG Ananobi had a big first quarter to kind of keep the Knicks in it. This was when of, of all of the games, this one was the most back and forth. I don't have any stats as far as the lead changes, but this was a game of runs. Like it was 5 points from this team, 8 points from this one. Like it was a definite back and forth game. And some of the, I think, yeah, Tobias Harris had a big first half as far as it wasn't so much his game. He had 22 points in the first half. Um, and one of the things that I kind of picked out was that the Pistons go to the rim. I think that's something that you're going to hear me kind of chime on. And it's probably the only reason why this game was semi close up until the fourth, until became kind of a blowout. Are teams that can kind of penetrate and attack the defense or have somebody that can kind of get into the lane and distribute the ball is going to have more of a chance to get some open shots just because they can collapse that defense.
Do you feel like it
And
was Cade facilitating that mostly?
uh, I think it was. I think, yeah, I've written down here that Cunningham kind of is the one that kind of pulled them back, and Beasley's shooting were kind of like the pieces in within that was kind of that kick out play. So obviously Beasley had the second most 3 pointers in the league. So he's obviously can be a guy that can step up and hit a shot. Um, I
Yeah,
think
big year for Malik Beasley. Definitely making his case for six man of the year.
yeah, one of the things that I think um, led to kind of the Knicks having this 40-point fourth quarter um, was Josh Hart's ability to kind of pass the ball and distribute. He might not. I wanted to see, like, it didn't seem as if he was going to be 13, 7, and 6. Like that's a solid game. Obviously, I'm not the only one excited about his game that was here. If I get interrupted, but yeah, his ability to kind of find Brunson, and obviously Brunson had a huge game, 34 points. Um, but yeah, it was, to me, it just all of a sudden this just kind of felt like this is when Thibodeau's like season begins. Like it's this possession ball, and I think that's what he like dreams about. Are these like, was it 7 8 weeks? Like this is all that he is playing for through the regular season, the off season. Like it's all right. We're going to be playing every one of these possessions. Like I can hear him screaming and losing his voice every night in the garden. Um, but yeah, I think the Knicks. I think I picked the Pistons. After kind of watching this, I think it's going to be close, but I think it's probably going to fall more on what you said, kind of a Knicks in six versus I think I said Pistons in six. Um, so it has that feel that I think the Pistons are going to steal a game, maybe two. but the way that the Knicks are kind of set up just feel like they can kind of control the game um, through the bench. Like they're deep as much as like their five main guys play as much as they do, but I think they have that ability to kind of play those guys longer minutes, which then limits their bench, but then those guys kind of come in and kind of contribute. So yeah, it was. I think this was definitely as far aside from maybe the one that we'll get to at the end. Um, Probably like the second most exciting game, just as far as compelling back and forth, just the way it was through the whole game versus like somebody taking a massive lead and then there's like a comeback in one of the quarters. So this was a good back and forth from I'd say start to about the 8 minute mark in the fourth.
Well, if there's any way that the Pistons are going to make a statement, like you said, it's going to be getting to the rim because, as we know, the Knicks it's one of their biggest weaknesses, one of their most glaring weaknesses. That, and obviously try to slow down their offense. Which I mean, I think there's two standouts there. Particularly Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson that you would want to target in that regard. So yeah, really excited to tune in tonight or whenever you watch this relative to the 21st of April to see to see what the Pistons can put together.
You made a good transitional point there of a team that has some issues dealing with their presence inside as we move to the other three seed, um, the Timberwolves and the Lakers. Uh, this was a 117-95 win by
You
my
can't even hide the
beloved.
smile. You can't even
No,
hide the
no,
smile
this.
as you're saying the score.
I am a biased reporter. I'm not a play-by-play announcer. I don't have to hide it. I am I wasn't gonna say bandwagon, but no, I've been through the rough and tumble years of the Timberwolves. So no, um, yeah, I'm. This is one of the like I said, I six seed was the ceiling at the start of the year after the trade. To me, I feel like they have the potential to win a series, and then who knows? To me, then it's house money for sure. But uh, as I watch this, I think with as I mentioned before, it's those other role players, and for me, this and it's one of those where am I worried that it was two of them at the same time? We got the Jaden McDaniels and the Nas Reed game together. I was kind of hoping that we could have one and then another one later on. So maybe tomorrow we can get the Mike Conley game, and then we'll get the Nikolai Alexander Walker game, and then Ant can put up 50 to close it out or something. So uh, to me, it was definitely these bench players and these role guys. Um, that stepped up. I think limiting the opportunities that Doncic had to go one on one against Gobert was the key. Like I think that was whether they had Nas Reed, who could probably be a little bit more has a little bit more lateral movement, can stay with them. Um, but forcing just him and LeBron again, it was just like kind of like the Magic, where I don't what did Austin Reeves or anybody else have? Even LeBron, I think, still was under 20 points in the game. So the Timberwolves defense was one of those that definitely made me smile. Yeah, Doncic had 37, James had 19, Reeves was 16, and then Hachimura with 9. So it was definitely a defensive showcase as far as what I was hoping to see. And obviously an offensive showcase, I think hitting a playoff record 21 threes and just kind of were unstoppable as a team from beyond the arc. And it opened up the lanes for them to drive and get easy baskets at the hoop, which in turn then forced the Lakers defense to collapse. And it was just one of those things. It was, all right, you're going to do this. We're going to shoot from outside. And then as soon as they kind of went to go out to try to stop them, they'd go inside because there's no interior presence to stop them at the hoop. So as far as kind of that back and forth and just kind of dictating the game, it was a very, very fun game for me as a Timberwolves fan to watch. But I know that that's only one game, and I know they're going to have adjustments And obviously, we're not going to shoot 50% from three in every game. So there will be that regression back. So, but I am positive we got home court back. So we're not back, but they grabbed home court, and now it can be the Wolves in five.
Yeah, I picked Wolves in 6, and I'm not seeing anything that's making me feel silly about that. Everybody with bouncing back and forth between the Lakers and the Warriors, naturally, of who's gonna be the sneaky team that makes their way into the Western Conference Finals. Nobody seemed to be picking T Wolves. Now, I feel like there's not much I can say about this game that you hadn't already. I don't love that Julius Randle had 7 turnovers, but I think it was certainly a good enough defensive showcase by the T Wolves, similar to our talk on Celtics Magic, except not the type of juggernaut differential with that series as this one. It's two teams with almost the same record. Um, um, where essentially they were able to display that you guys have like 2.5 guys that can score on us. Let's see what else you can do. You mentioned a lot of the rotation players for the Lakers in a different setting. You know, you can you can argue that outside of the top three of the Lakers, where essentially all their talent is concentrated, that any single one of those guys might not even be a starter on another team. There are certainly squads where you can argue that Austin Reeves would be more of a six-man type player. So, that said, the Lakers, they obviously had a brilliant run in down the stretch of the regular season. They have they have a high concentration of talent right at the top there. I think that they're going to be able to find a groove during this series, and I don't think that they're necessarily going to get swept. But yeah, I that said, I also don't count on, as you mentioned, such hot shooting from the T Wolves, who looks like they, when I was the second half when I watched, it looks like they can essentially just hit from anywhere that game. They were playing with so much confidence. But yeah, can they? You're right. Can they stagger who pops besides Edwards on any given night for the rest of the series? Because they will ultimately need it. They have, as I mentioned, they have a lot of defensive wing depth, but who else is going to pop on this T Wolves team moving forward?
And hey,
They
this
play
was a
again. Sorry, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say no, and this was a game too where Edwards only had 22 points, like left for probably about 8 to 10 minutes of the game, with kind of cramping issues. So he
Yeah,
kind of wasn't.
not even a super efficient game either from him.
Yeah, so to me, like this was definitely one of those where I don't want to say we stole it, but like we didn't maximize Edwards. It wasn't him like 1A like taking over the game, 35 points, and then we don't need to have all these other guys kind of step up. So and watching the game live, I can't sit there and I don't have anything in my notes as far as like, oh, I can't believe Randall made that play. To me, I see him as trying to distribute more than like he's looking to pass almost at a 50-50 rate as he's looking to shoot. Whereas before it was more of as a Wolves fan watching the Knicks, it felt like it was a 50% like, is he going to keep dribbling or is he going to shoot? Like, it didn't seem like he was going to pass. And so it definitely feels like he's much more willing to distribute the ball. So he's going to make probably a couple more mistakes. And obviously, if he's going to start dribbling down, which I think he did a couple times, but if he can get away from that, then he's not going to be susceptible to somebody coming up behind him and stealing the ball, which I think those turnovers are, at least I'm going to say, okay, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But I like the fact that he's wanting to distribute and handle the ball uh, with at least not taking some of that pressure off of Ant. So it's nice to see.
Well, their next game is tomorrow night. It's going to be one of the TNT games. Excited to see where this series goes.
Yes, indeed.
Which I guess brings us to the. Are we at the 4-5 matchups?
Yeah. So let's jump out of East to the 4-5. just so it sets it up nice for the other one.
Because
Uh,
we all know it's really juicy to talk about that one out west.
I know we gotta hold people and make them keep listening to us. That's how we do this. All right, so the other game is right over there in Indianapolis, where the Pacers took on the Bucks, and this one, Giannis got a very fast start, and to me, this is going to be one of those. It almost feels like it's Greece from the Olympics. Like, can he carry this team? Is he going to be able to dominate and control the ball, and kind of just throw this team on his back and drag them through the playoffs? Um, but the Pacers, I think, they're a fun team. They've got those my favorite jerseys they wore last night. The court looks awesome. I really like, at least aesthetically, what the Pacers are doing. That arena looks nice. Like, the jerseys are great. Like, I'm am I slowly becoming a Pacer fan? Like, it's just the way they move the ball. Like, they're a very fun team. It's hard not to kind of root for them and like them, especially after Halliburton and his Olympic run, like being the one that's like the one who gets an A for doing nothing on the test, and he's just kind of one of those guys. It's hard not to kind of root for him. So, but Pascal Siakam had a big first half. Uh, Pacers had a big first half lead. Nembhard with 17 points. Halliburton had 10 assists through 3 quarters, and it was kind of a blowout. Really, the only offense that I was seeing, because this is one of those where I was watching all of like the recap plays. It was funny. I kept seeing it was like Miles Turner, Nembhard, like Halliburton, and then it was AJ Green, like AJ Green 3, AJ Green 3. It was like the only thing I was seeing from the Bucks, and it's like, whether it was what happened here, was this Giannis on the bench, or why did he all of a sudden just stop trying to go to the hole? Because there was just this gap in time in the game where he was just not being himself. And so it was just, okay, yeah, you're getting some decent shooting from AJ Green, but that was about it. Like, otherwise, there was nothing in quarters 2 and 3.
So yeah, we were talking about the Pacers and Bucks and how the Pacers are a really fun team to watch, and to me it was hard to see that Bucks team from game one have any chance of winning. We did get some news that Damian Lillard has a chance to play game two. It's an outside shot, probably a better one in game three. So I don't know how much he's going to change the dynamic of what the Pacers were able to do and what the Bucks weren't able to do. I think at least will help with kind of spreading the floor, just because, like I said, it was Giannis for a little bit at the beginning, kind of penetrating, and then it was a bunch of AJ Green shots, and then after that, it was like, where's the offense coming from? And again, a theme that we're talking about. I guess I should have titled this like, where's the offense coming from? Once the Pacers kind of keyed in and were like, all right, beat us with somebody else, there was really nobody else that the Bucks could produce. So, yeah, definitely curious to see how this series pans out with kind of some of the players not being at full strength. So we'll be curious to see. What do you think?
I mean, the big things that stand out to me are the Pacers had control of this game essentially throughout the entirety of it. And Halliburton had 10 points on 13 shots, missed all of his 7 3-pointers, had 12 assists. Meanwhile, Giannis had yet another 30-10 game, 36-12 to be more specific, but only 1 assist. And yet the Bucks lost by almost 20 points. So if you're going to get essentially the best of Giannis, and you can't even keep it close with the Pacers, then my Pacers in 5 or 6, I can't remember what I picked. Given how late Dame's going to come back, I'm hoping I picked 5, but could
I think you
settle
did
for
pick
6.
5.
Could settle for 6 if I didn't get that right. And you mentioned AJ Green hitting a lot of his threes. Outside of him, the Bucks went 4 for 26 from 3. And I think that has a lot of reasons why Giannis only had 1 assist that game. It's not that he's incapable of dropping triple doubles. He had a bunch of games like that down the stretch of the season to keep the Bucks relevant, to keep them from falling into the 6th seed or worse. And now that we're in a playoff setting against this Pacers team, who is, you're right, a lot of fun to watch, even when Halliburton's not hitting. Guys, everybody on that team touches the ball. I think that's a big thing to bring up, and they have more guys coming off the bench and actually contributing than is typical, at least in this game anyway. And I mean, even with Dame coming back, like you said, probably in Game 3, maybe they can squeak out a win or two. But this Pacers team has been gunning for the playoffs for the past couple of years. They obviously had some success last year. They had some surprising success last year, and I mean, I think they're going to make similar type of noise this year. So, I love Giannis. It's been fun to watch the Bucks over the years. Drive up to Milwaukee all those nights that we did, just to catch some cheap seats. But yeah, I mean, if Kyle Kuzma is gonna have,
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna make the reference because I hate doing that to this guy. But if Kyle Kuzma is gonna play 22 minutes and not log a single stat in the box score other than 2 personal fouls, then what are we doing here? I mean, the Bucks, they had a great finish to the regular season. I do not see how they behead a team like the Pacers, who just has way too much to throw at them.
No, I agree. Yeah, that was the last comment I was going to make was the Kuzma stat of just kind of the row of zeros that he put up. So then that leaves us with the juicy one here at the end. The Clippers and the Nuggets put on a spectacle. Was it 1 or 2 overtime? 1 overtime?
One overtime.
One overtime. Yeah, that was quite a show. I will let you kind of dig in. I know this is one of your teams you like digging your teeth into, and I think the Clippers are slowly becoming another one of your favorites. But yeah, as far as anything that I would want to jump in, it was just Zubac. I know you had mentioned him last time, and his defense on the Joker was outstanding. So, but yeah, I will let you kind of jump at it.
It was outstanding. Not enough to slow him down ultimately, but yeah, I mean, if there was a team that would want to match up against Nuggets, it would be this Clippers team, who I wish I had zoomed in on a little bit more during the regular season. I knew that they were breaking some necks because they were getting looks from people that were really surprised by how successful they were able to stay throughout the regular season. I mean, they had a hot start, but they were able to stay this successful, riding their amazing defense, and just some savvy play with an offense led by James Harden, who did not disappoint in his first playoff game this year. Hey, what's up, little guy? We got. For those who can't see, we got a little bit of company here. That's all right. We need cheerleaders on this podcast. Anyway, so yeah, one thing is for sure. If you were picking 7 to start, you're not feeling bad about that. And this is a battle between 2 amazing half-court offenses, which is going to be these, set them up, grind it out type games. It's everything that the playoffs hopes for. Watching these 2 teams compete, getting a little bit more into it. Perhaps not the most efficient game by Russell Westbrook, but he did make some big plays down the stretch. If I'm not mistaken, I think he missed another layup late in the game that just could have made a huge difference. But he made up for it with that big 3 with about 30 seconds left that put him up 2. That was that 2-point lead that was eventually equalized by Nick Batum to send things into overtime. Certainly don't want to face the likes of Nikola Jokic in an overtime setting. I'm picking him every single time. I felt like even though Jamal Murray also did not have a very efficient game, he was able to get to his spots really, really well against this Clippers team. I thought that they were going to trouble him a little bit more than they did, but he did not seem shaken up by their defense. It looked like he was able to penetrate, get to his mid-range a little bit better than I anticipated. Please feel free to cut me off before I just continue to blather.
No, you're
about this.
I was being attacked. No, I think one of the keys to I think that I picked up on watching this game was just how much the Clippers dominated the first 3 quarters of the game. Like it was Jokic, and I think Aaron Gordon needs to be highlighted in this game because, or at least in this podcast, because of his role, and then because he was there throughout the game. And the comment that I had written down here was that Westbrook didn't show up until 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Like I didn't even realize he was a part of the game. Like there were no, and this, at least when I'm watching it, like when I'm going through kind of the recaps or anything, I'm like, when you're not showing up on anything, like even if it's like the all possessions and I'm still not seeing you like show up at all, that's an issue until the fourth quarter. And a few bad turnovers from Harden and Leonard at the end. Usually when your veterans are there, you expect them to kind of handle the ball well. I did want to throw in that there were some big Batum buckets. Like he kept them close at the end in the fourth quarter.
He does that. The dude's got such a quick release. He can catch it high, put no dip on the ball, and release it the same way as if he had 10 seconds to shoot it. Unbelievable that he's still doing this.
He had 2 or 3 just well-timed threes just to either, whether it was to kind of stop like a stretch of not scoring or like the kind of continue on or stop the Nuggets run. They just seemed impactful. And I was like, ooh, this is something I got to notate. I do have to say there was some surprise Jokic mistakes. He got a technical in the second half, and then there was an unusual, like he missed both free throws towards the end as well. When he had 2 shots and missed them both. It was just unexpected from someone that I would expect to make at least one or just not make those kind of errors in an intense, close game like that. So, yeah, it was unusual to see. But, yeah, he ended up being a big part of the reason why they ended up getting the win at the end, just by some better decisions. Like you said, there was the Westbrook big 3. And then
I can't remember who did it, but there was even a play down the stretch in particular where he had a passing lane that opened up, and you would have normally seen like this like no look behind the back to the corner for an open 3. And I think maybe it was Chris Dunn that was there, and he opened it up for a little bit. Jokic ended up throwing the pass that ended up getting picked off, and it's just not something that you see from him too often. Westbrook, one thing I didn't mention about his contribution late in the game is offensive rebounds, of which he had 4 in total in that game, only rivaled by, as you mentioned, Aaron Gordon, who had 5, which were just absolutely huge for the Nuggets down the stretch. And we can't finish talking about this game without mentioning Christian Brown, who, yeah, I mean, he's looking like a guy who's making sure Denver does not miss Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's filling those shoes very, very well. I mean, he only made 1 3 in this game, but he made a lot of like huge defensive stops. Just being the annoying guy that doesn't necessarily show up in the box score was huge.
He always was leaking out on the fast break. Like he was usually the one that was out ahead and started the run whenever Nuggets got the ball quick. That Jokic is usually looking to get down. But I was gonna say off of that, I wasn't sure if you were gonna say his name. Was somebody who I didn't see throughout until like the very end. There was a little bit was Michael Porter Jr. So it was he didn't really have an impact on this game. I don't know if they kind of I don't know who's guarding him defensively, but there was just he was not making his usual backdoor cuts that we've talked about before. He just wasn't part of the play as far as what I was seeing. I didn't pay close enough attention to see if it was something defensively that the Clippers were doing or if it was just him not getting into the flow of the offense. So
he had a rough game. Well, let me just mention 4 names: Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac, James Harden, Norman Powell. Are any of those 4 guys somebody that you want Michael Porter Jr. guarding? I mean, I think he's just going to struggle in those minutes.
I was gonna say, do I want him guarding them or them guarding him? Like, I think for all of those cases, it's like not really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you can stretch out some of those guys onto the 3-point and the 3-point territory. I mean, him on James Harden on him.
I was gonna say Harden's like it.
he might, he might be able to rough him up enough that that he keeps him subdued. But yeah, I mean, on the reverse end, he's just not the ideal player. At least it seems so in game one. He's not the ideal player for this matchup. Really, really excited to see this game two tonight. Gonna have plenty to talk about, I'm sure. Or who knows? Who knows? Maybe one of these teams just completely opens it wide open. Yeah. This so far has turned out to be one of the more exhilarating series, and as predicted, everybody was very excited about it, and I think rightfully so. It's got big names, it's got veteran names, it's got MVPs, Finals MVPs. Uh, it has a lot to offer. A lot to offer. There's gonna be a lot of grit and grind, and yeah, again, just a showcase of half court offense.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I'm excited for the games tonight. I'm glad we were able to sneak this one in. Hopefully it works out that we can at least get in by before the end of these series, we can have at least one more chat about them before we get on to the second round or before some of these teams get eliminated. So hopefully these series go more than 4 games. And then that way we can get a little bit more content out of it as well. So I know we're both itching to get back to work or get back to other things. I appreciate you getting in the afternoon so I'm not droopy-eyed and completely exhausted. Go enjoy those. It is a bright North Carolina day there. We can see it shining through your car windows. So go enjoy your day. I've got a little child I've probably got to go feed or take outside or do something with. I need to go take care of him.
Hopefully, it was the same kid in the background earlier.
We'll see. I'm not sure. It's one of them. So yeah, we hope you guys enjoy your NBA basketball here in the next few nights. Go check us out on YouTube, the Bucket Bros. We are there. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, not Pinterest, sorry. But go check us out. We appreciate everybody who's out there liking, subscribing, commenting, and doing all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. If you're all the way here, listening and watching, thank you, everybody. We will see you next time. This has been the Bucket Bros.